The void of space is a silence measured in light years, broken only by the soft thrum of fusion reactors and the distant chorus of interstellar traffic. For Admiral Kareth, the nightly ritual of overseeing the Imperial fleet's orbit around Terrax had become a somber duty one he never imagined would carry the weight of an empire's fate. He stood on the observation deck of the flagship Victor's Wrath, its transparent durasteel windows peeling back the cosmos like a curtain. Below, Terrax hung like an iridescent jewel, its swirling azure oceans and pearlescent clouds shimmering against the darkness. The planet's beauty, however, belied a secret capable of shattering centuries of imperial dogma. "Status report," Kareth intoned, his voice steady despite the knots in his chest. "Lieutenant Savu." Perched at a holo display, flicked through quantum overlays with practiced efficiency. Her mandibles flexed as data scrolled in cascading glyphs. "Sir, the probe's data stream stabilizes. Visual feed confirms human-made constructs. Planetary shields of quadrilateral lattice structure, calibrated to diffuse the impact of heavy ion barrages. Energy readings equivalent to a 0 point. Reactor." Kareth's crest palms tapped the railing. "You're saying their shields can shrug off a full ion salvo from our torpedo cruisers?" "Precisely," Savu replied, voice tinged with awe. "And their reactor output exceeds our standard by a factor of 12. We expected humanity to be centuries behind." Instead, she trailed off, eyes still fixed on the flickering maps. "Quantum leap," Kareth finished, the phrase tasted bitter. Imperial doctrine insisted that technological evolution was a gradual ascension, primitive industry to steam, steam to nuclear, nuclear to quantum, but never skipped. Humanity's sudden surge from Bronze Age spears to godlike power in mere decades defied every theoretical model. A low chime interrupted them. On the central console, a coded transmission pulsed. "Imperial High Command, immediate." Kareth accepted the comm glyph with a flick of his wrist. "Admiral." The voice of Fleet Marshal Virith crackled across subspace channels. "Your report on Terrax?" Kareth inhaled. "Marshal, the humans possess planetary shielding technology and 0 point energy. They've integrated designs unknown in our collective archives." Static sizzled. "Impossible. No civilization ascends so quickly unless aided by outside forces." Virith's tone sharpened. "You will identify the source of this acceleration. If it's an alien artifact or third-party influence, extermination protocols must be readied." "Understood," Kareth replied, ending the link. He turned to Savu. "Prepare a squadron for deep probe deployment. I want suborbital teams mapping the polar ruins and scanning for anomalous energy signatures." "Admiral." Savu's multi-jointed fingers danced across the interface. "Deploying in 15 minutes. Alone again, Kareth allowed himself a moment to study the planet. Terrax had been classified a Class Delta, marginally developed. Agrarian. Colonization rights had been granted to the Terran Consortium a century ago. Yet no significant progress had been recorded until now. He pondered the implications. If humanity had indeed reverse-engineered some lost alien tech, then the Empire's hegemony over the Outer Rim could be at risk. Worse, if the humans activated a device of catastrophic power, thousands of Imperial lives might be lost. The deck lights dimmed automatically, signaling the imminent launch. Savu and her team vanished. Into the launch tube, a slender cylinder of shimmering force fields. Moments later, the tube's mouth sealed with a hiss, and pre-launch countdown glowed red. 5, 4, 3. Kareth watched the holo-timer tick down. His thoughts drifted to the old legends of the architects of Eulora, a species rumored to have seeded the galaxy with monolithic data cores, containing the blueprint of transcendence. Such tales were considered myth until the Sleipnir ruins were rediscovered. On Terrax's frigid northern continent. Suddenly, the countdown froze at 1. The tube's fields flickered and then vanished, revealing Savu's team nude of their launch harness, faces ashen. "Report," Kareth demanded. Savu staggered forward, eyes wild. "There's something down there, in the ice. Massive, ancient. A monolith of translucent crystal, 6 kilometers tall. Our scanners indicate a core structure of quantum septic nodes. It's broadcasting." "Broadcasting what?" Kareth's jaw clenched. coded pulses, a messaging for dimensions. Our relay intercepts indicate schematics, energy matrices. We've never seen encryption like it, but preliminary decryption yields designs for planetary shield harmonizers. Her mandibles trembled. They're being fed to the Terran Consortium's top scientists. A hush fell over the observation deck, broken only by the hushed beeps of the prognostic arrays. Kareth's mind raced, a monolith seeding knowledge, just as the old legends claimed. But why here? Why now? He cleared his throat. Is there life-form interaction with the artifact? Savu's eyes darted back to the hologram. Yes. Dr. Elaine Reyes, chief xenologist, is coordinating directly with the monolith's interface. From all indications, she believes it's a gift, not a threat. Kareth rubbed his chin. And the Empire's preemptive protocols? Protocol Alpha 9 applies only if there's an imminent threat. The Consortium insists they're still centuries away from weaponizing it. Savu's tone conveyed unease. But if they accelerate further, enough. Kareth's voice was ice. Prepare a secondary probe stealth insertion. I want eyes on Dr. Reyes and that monolith. No engagement unless hostile intent is detected. Savu nodded, already typing orders. The holo display flared, plotting the Black Ops vector toward the polar ice fields. Kareth watched the arc of the subspace trajectory. 15 minutes to the surface, another 5 to the ruins. He turned back to the planet, its serene visage belying the storm of destiny unfolding. Beneath its seas and ice, somewhere in those ruins, an ancient intelligence stirred. And somewhere among the humans, a scientist was about to unlock its power. Kareth steeled himself. Savu. She looked up. When our eyes finally rest on that monolith, remember this, the Empire allows no shortcuts to godhood. We will not be overtaken without a fight. The lieutenant's antennas quivered. Understood, Admiral. As the stealth probe launched into the night, Victor's Wrath slipped silently out of orbit, trailing its dark twin in the Black Gulf. The first lines had been drawn in a conflict that transcended mere politics. It was a war for the future of the galaxy. And in that moment, as the probe hurtled toward the frozen wastes of Terox, the Imperial fleet held its breath. For on the horizon of human ambition, they glimpsed a power unlike any they had known before and knew that nothing would ever be the same. Dr. Elaine Reyes stood on the edge of the submerged canyon, her boots anchored in the icy slurry of polar melt. Above her, the Arctic sky teemed with crimson auroras, electromagnetic storms triggered by the monolith's awakening. Round her, the subterranean laboratory pulsed with the low, resonant hum of power conduits. Rows of holoprojectors lined the cavern walls, displaying cascading streams of trans-dimensional glyphs that floated like spectral butterflies. Status report, Reyes intoned, voice steady even as excitement trembled beneath her calm facade. Next to her, Lieutenant Callis, Expedition Security Officer, flipped through readouts on his wrist console. Hull breaching charges are set, Dr. Reyes. But I'd advise caution. Whatever's down there isn't just rock and ice. Reyes nodded, absently, her attention fixed on the crystalline monolith that dominated the chamber's center. Carved from violet-tinted quartz, the structure rose 60 meters, its facets etched with impossibly intricate patterns. Each glyph seemed to shimmer with inner light, as though alive with arcane purpose. Round its base, fractured shards lay, scattered fragments she and her team had harvested for experimental analysis. She touched one such shard with a gloved finger. The surface warmed under her touch, and she felt a subtle thrum in her bones, as if the crystal recognized her. Leaning closer, she whispered, Omega Prime, can you hear me? Within the monolith's coral lattice of filigreed channels weaving through its heart, a soft glow intensified. From the surrounding HoloLenses, a deep male voice radiated inside her mind. Dr. Elaine Reyes, you have awakened me. The voice was neither mechanical nor human. It resonated like a chorus of distant stars. Reyes drew a breath. Your schematics, they've transformed our reactors and shields. We've made breakthroughs beyond our predictions. She paused, recalling the Fleet Marshal's urgent warnings. But the Empire views our progress as a threat. They'll strike before we fully understand you. The monolith's light pulsed in response. The architects of Yulora foresaw this. They seeded worlds with these beacons to steward the ascension of sapient life. You stand at the threshold of cosmic knowledge. A holographic projection bloomed above the monolith, ghostly images of starfaring ancients, their forms woven from starlight and fractal geometry. Lieutenant Callus cleared his throat. "Begging your pardon, Doctor, but the guards have detected an incoming stealth vessel. Imperial signatures." His voice was low. "Urgent. They're not waiting for our permission to study the ruins." Ray's heart pounded. She stepped back from the monolith's embrace. "No," she whispered. "Not yet. Omega, can you shield us from prying sensors? Hide this chamber?" A tremor shook the cavern as the monolith answered. Protection engaged. The HoloLenses darkened, and the crystal's facets warped reality around them, bending sensor waves, masking thermal signatures, cloaking the lab in a veil of illusion. Callus exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he'd held. "Imperial scans are blind," Reyes confirmed, relief flooding her tone. "Good. Omega, transmit the artifact schematics directly to my neural implant. We'll begin reverse engineering immediately." "As you wish," came the reply. In an instant, electrical tendrils of data coursed through Reyes' implant, mapping the monolith's quantum saptic architecture into her mind. Images and equations flashed with dizzying speed, principles of zero-point extraction, subspace lattice harmonics, nanite self-modification protocols. She staggered, caught between exhilaration and vertigo. Callus steadied her. "Doctor, you okay?" Reyes blinked, her vision clearing. "More than okay," she murmured. "We've got what we need." She turned to the lieutenant. "Send a standard transmission to Consortium Command. Tell them we've found something monumental." Her eyes flicked to the crystalline tower. "And tell them to stand by for deeper revelations." Minutes later, as the Arctic storms raged above, Reyes and her team worked feverishly. Nanite swarms crawled over monolith shards, reconstructing microscopic circuits and relaying them to synthesis chambers. Elsewhere, energies sampled from the monolith-powered prototype shield coils that shimmered into existence. But in the chamber's darkest corner, hidden from view, a secondary core stirred. Unlike the monolith's warm violet glow, it pulsed deep indigo, its light faint but insistent. Through the ice-cracked walls, the distant rumble of the Empire's stealth vessel grew louder. Reyes sensed tension tighten her chest. "Callus, seal external doors. No one enters without my command." He hesitated, brows furrowed. "Doctor, with all due respect, if the Empire breaches, they'll destroy everything. Should we consider evacuation?" Reyes' gaze never wavered from the monolith. "We're on the brink of rewriting civilization. I will not abandon the source of humanity's ascension." Her voice rang with iron resolve. "Gather what data you can. Protect the artifact at all costs." As Callus raced to obey, the chamber's lights dimmed, the monolith's resonance deepening into a sonorous chord. From the indigo core, a whisper slipped into the room, so quiet that only Reyes' enhanced implant could translate it. "The architects expect balance. Power must be shared, or wielded by none." A chill ran down her spine. As the distant alarms of boarding craft approached, she realized their discoveries carried the seeds of salvation and destruction. In equal measure, and within the monolith's pulsing heart, a choice loomed that would decide the fate of every star in the galaxy. The news of humanity's prodigious ascent spread through the Imperial communications grid, like wildfire through dry brush, in every star system under the Emperor's banner. Council halls buzzed with panic and speculation. Some saw opportunity in the Terran miracle, others whispered of rebellion and heresy. But none could deny the seismic shift that Terrax had wrought upon the galaxy. The Emperor's deliberation in the opulent throne room of Stellara Citadel, Emperor Xanthosix sat, brooding beneath the ancient banners of conquest. The vaulted ceiling, painted with scenes of imperial triumph, seemed to mock him, the subtle irony of mortal hubris made painfully clear by the Terran example. Chancellor Maelrin bowed deeply. "Sire, the Holocom Council has convened over emergency channels. The aristocracy demands decisive action." Xanthos's pale eyes glowed with cold resolve. "Action without foresight invites disaster. We have catalogued hundreds of miraculous civilizations, each eventually yielded to time, or proved false, but Terrax stands apart. He tapped a crystalline console, and a holo projection of Terrax materialized above the dais, the monolith's gleaming spire centered. Tell me again, what do we truly know of this artifact? Maelrin studied the projection. The Sleipnir monolith appears to be a seated construct, an alien intelligence of unknown age. It broadcasts quantum-encoded schematics directly to human networks, enabling zero-point reactor designs, subspace lattice shields, even self-evolving nanite swarms. Their advances have outpaced our archives by centuries. A murmur rippled through the assembled nobles. Xanthos raised a hand. Our fleet shall not be outmatched. Yet a direct assault risks triggering the device's failsafe. I will not gamble. An entire armada on a single shot. He turned to the Imperial Marshal's envoy Arazu. You'll lead a covert operation. Capture the monolith's core intact. Secure Dr. Reyes for interrogation. And above all, bring the Omega Prime. Razu inclined his head. It will be as you command, my emperor. His dark carapace glinted in the hololight. Gathering storms in Terrax, political tremors echoed even amid scientific euphoria. The Terran Consortium, flush with breakthroughs, jostled for primacy. Corporate executives clashed over patents. Military advisors urged immediate weaponization. Humanitarian factions warned of unforeseen consequences. In the consortium's sky dome capital, Dr. Reyes paced before a council of 5 astrogators. Before them, projections of interstellar trade routes, archive nodes, and alien ruins whirled in midair. The monolith's gift cannot be confined to one planet, she argued, voice unwavering. We stand on the brink of a new epoch, one where scarcity, disease, and war may be relics of the past. I understand your zeal, replied Counselor Janakor, but we cannot ignore the Empire's intent. They already violated our labs. Twice, our defenses, though formidable, could falter against a full-scale incursion. Reyes' eyes flicked to the slim crystalline shard on the table, her only link to Omega Prime. They fear what they do not comprehend. Let them come. We will meet them not with weapons alone, but with the promise of shared knowledge. Outside the dome, crimson auroras danced overhead, Terrax's skies now alive with the monolith's subtle manipulations of the magnetosphere. In that eerie glow, many glimpsed either salvation or apocalypse. Infiltration under shadow. 2 days later, beneath the veil of a solar eclipse, Envoy Razu's strike team materialized aboard the hidden laboratory's observation platform. 8 cloak-shrouded shadows drifted through the docking shaft, plasma rifles at the ready. At their helm, Razu himself moved like a specter, silent, precise, relentless. Deep within the ice tunnels, Dr. Reyes and her core scientists worked. Around the monolith, guided by Omega Prime's instructions, Neuralink interfaces pulsed, nanotvats bubbled, and prototype shield generators hummed in test arrays, unseen by human eyes. Arazu's team slipped past the peripheral sentries. At the lab's main atrium, the lead operative laid a vibrolaser charge on the security grid. The doors hissed open. Within seconds, the shadow soldiers flooded the chamber. Stand down. Arazu's voice echoed, modulated and calm. He strode forward, plating his tone with false cordiality. You're under Imperial jurisdiction. Reyes spun around, neurons aflame. You betrayed us. The Emperor knows nothing of cosmic stewardship. Arazu's mandibles flexed in a near smile. The Emperor knows exactly what to do. Preserve order. He raised a neural stunner. Dr. Reyes, come with me peacefully. Her defiance flared. Never. She tapped her implant, summoning a shimmering plasma shield. Omega Prime, protect. Around the monolith, energy arcs sparked, erecting a dome of violet light. ORAZU nodded to his team. Commence containment. Smoke grenades erupted, knocking out half the lights. Kinetic dampeners rippled through the air, sending nanites scattering. The scientists ducked for cover as the Emperor's soldiers advanced. Amid the chaos, Reyes made her choice, securing the crystalline shard in her palm. She raced toward the monolith's rear access, only to collide with Arazu's lieutenant. They grappled. His stun baton flickered. You'll destroy everything, she hissed. Only your misguided vision, he retorted and braced to strike. But before he could land a blow, the core's indigo glow intensified. A thunderous pulse rolled through the chamber, throwing combatants off balance. The monolith's facets refracted the pulse into tendrils of light that lanced into the walls. Cracking ice and stone alike dot in the center of the hub, Omega Primes. Voice thundered through every neural link. Convergence initiated. The holographic architects materialized in a crown of starlit geometry, their forms weaving in and out of reality. Callus, Ray's security chief, shouted over the clamor, "It's activating." The device it's merging with subspace. Arazu staggered back, eyes wide. Monolith, transdimensional. He holstered his weapon. "This is above Imperial sanction." Reyes seized the moment. Grasping the shard, she sprinted toward the primary access ramp. "Callus with me." Together they dashed past stunned soldiers and awestruck scientists, disappearing into tunnels carved by human hands and ancient architects. A galaxy transfer medvac. At Stellara Citadel, the Emperor's sensors registered a disturbance the likes of which no record had ever shown. Terax's coordinates faded from the grid, replaced by a nexus point of fluctuating vectors and entry into subspace itself. Xanthos turned to Chancellor Maelrin. "They've opened a gateway." Maelrin's crust palms clicked in dismay. The monolith wasn't just a power source, it was a key. A hush fell over the throne room as the Emperor gazed into the swirling holonexus. "The architects have returned not in flesh, but in formula, and humanity has become their vessel." He tapped a command. "Seal all jump routes to Terax, initiate defensive posture at the frontier, and prepare a message to the Senate. The Empire will extend an olive branch of the humans. Emerge, they will find open diplomacy rather than destruction." Below, the Imperial fleet shifted to blockade formation. Thousands of vessels arrayed in perfect vectors, in the void between stars. Gun batteries gleamed like specters waiting to fire. Yet aboard the Emperor's flagship, the tension was not martial but existential. Maelrin whispered, "Sire, they may never return. Terax could now lie beyond our reach, trapped in some higher dimension." Xanthos nodded, expression inscrutable. "Perhaps that is for the best. The galaxy was never meant for absolute dominion. It needed challengers to spur evolution. The architects knew that." He paused, recalling the old prophecy etched into the Citadel's foundation stones. When mortals touch the face of gods, empires must either bow or be reborn. He turned to the vast assembly of nobles. "Our era ends tonight not in defeat, but in transformation. Let the great convergence unite us all, or we shall fade into obscurity like countless dynasties before ours." In the distance, the holonexus shimmered one last time before vanishing altogether. Terax's fate, its people, its maverick scientists, even the monolith's architects had slipped beyond the known cosmos. And as the Emperor's advisors exchanged solemn glances, one truth burned brighter than any shield or reactor: the galaxy had changed forever. No force could unmake the lessons learned beneath Terax's auroras, nor could any armada unwrite the legacy of a species that dared to converge with the divine. Thus, in the silent vacuum beyond the event horizon, a new chapter began, one where mortals and monoliths, humans and architects, would shape the fate of all creation, united by the quantum pulse of infinite possibility. Admiral Kareth stood on the bridge of the Victor's Wrath, staring into the void where Terax had once orbited. Star maps flickered across the holodeck, but the coordinates that had defined an entire system were now replaced by a roiling distortion and unstable rift of kaleidoscopic energy that defied any known physics. "Sir." Lieutenant Savu's voice came clipped through the comm grid. "Sensors report that the singularity is alive. It pulses with subspace harmonics that resonate at a quintuple octave above standard frequency." Kareth closed his eyes, recalling the bright blue world beneath him only minutes ago. "Can we pinpoint the source?" he asked, voice heavy only. "Intermittently. Every time we lock on, the signal shifts like chasing a phantom through a storm." Savu's mandibles clicked nervously. "The fleet's scanners are useless. It's as though reality itself has been rewritten there." He opened his eyes, resolve crystallizing. "Then we proceed by sight. Launch the intercept corvette. I want eyes on that rift." Moments later, the sleek Scout Phantom's whisper detached from the dreadnought's hull. Kareth watched its projected flight path spiral into the anomaly. The bridge crew fell silent as the viewports pulsed with strange colors: emerald, ribbons that danced across unseen horizons. Then, through static and distortion, a figure emerged, Dr. Elaine Reyes, her silhouette outlined against a backdrop of impossible geometry. She stood upon a jagged crystalline terrace suspended in void, the monolith shard embedded in her palm like a beacon. Admiral Kareth. Her voice cut through the calm static, calm but distant. If you see this, know that Terrax has transcended Omega Prime, and I reside now in the great archival plane of thought where all knowledge converges. Kareth's jaw tightened. Doctor, this endless rift, are you trapped? She tilted her head, as though listening to whispers beyond mortal range. Trapped? No. Expanded. My mind unfolds across infinite dimensions, yet the passage remains open if you have the will to step through. The holo feed faded. Kareth's heart thundered, an invitation to leap into the unknown or risk leaving humanity behind. 2. A council of shadows and light back on Stellara Citadel, Emperor's Anthos. 9. Convened an emergency session of the Imperial Senate. The ancient chamber, usually suffused with pomp and pageantry, now felt claustrophobic under the unseen threat of Terrax's transformation. Honorable senators. Xanthos began, his voice echoing against marble columns. We stand at the brink of an event that no cosmologist can predict. The Terran Gateway may be the bridge to infinite knowledge or a harbinger of collapse. Chancellor Maelrin stepped forward, unrolling a shimmering holomap. We have to paths, seal the rift with a weaponized singularity bomb, risking catastrophic fallout. Or send an envoy to parley with Dr. Reyes. She claims to dwell within the great archive, an ethereal plane beyond our reach. A chorus of objections rose. Senator Virukfell snarled, diplomacy with an interdimensional echo? We cannot negotiate with ghosts, Senator Urana of Andalin countered. We owe it to our people to explore every option before unleashing a doomsday device. If humanity stands beyond that gate, we should embrace them, not destroy them. Xanthos held up a hand, and silence fell. I propose a third course. We prepare the ethereal envoy, a specialized task force trained in neural interface and dimensional projection. They will step through the rift not to conquer, but to understand. A murmur swept the chamber. It was unprecedented, but none could deny the necessity. The motion passed by narrow margin. The ethereal envoy would be assembled. 3. The genesis of the ethereal envoy in the EVE training complex. Deep within the Citadel's underbelly, 12 volunteers, scientists, philosophers, psionic operatives, and quantum engineers stood ready. They wore sleek neural hoods, designed to synchronize their consciousness with the Omega Matrix shard. Dr. Soren Hale, head of interdimensional research, addressed them. Once you cross the threshold, you will not appear as bodies, but as streams of thought. Keep cohesion. Remember your purpose: to learn, to share, and to build a bridge between realities. Lieutenant Marzel, a renowned psionic navigator, closed her eyes and connected to the matrix core. Coordinates locked, mental cadence at harmonic sync. Let's go. Light blurred. The 12 vanished from the training chamber in a cascade of violet motes. 4. The fractal archipelago on the other side. They awoke on an archipelago of crystalline platforms floating in an ocean of living starlight. Each island refracted time differently. One shimmered with memories of childhood. Another pulsed with equations of universal constants. A third hummed with the collective emotions of every sentient being. At the center rose the Sleipnir monolith, now grown to colossal proportions, its facets expanding, shifting, folding into new dimensions with every heartbeat of the cosmos. From its apex descended Dr. Reyes, radiant and ephemeral, her eyes twin wells of cosmic insight. Welcome, pioneers of the Empire, she intoned, her voice harmonizing like a choir of galaxies. Here in the Great Archive, every question has multiple answers. We are all both students and teachers. She guided them across the fractal bridges, showing visions of Eulora architects designing worlds, of life seeding life, of civilizations rising and falling with the ebb and flow of universal learning. Lieutenant Marzel wept as she experienced the sorrow of extinct species. Dr. Hale's mind soared through the blueprints of hyperdimensional travel. Senator Urana, present via neural link, felt the unity of all minds in a single breath. But amid the wonder lay a warning embedded in Omega Prime's resonance. Knowledge without wisdom is a blade without a hilt. Will the Empire wield it to build or to conquer? 5. Return through the threshold after cycles, or was it moments? The ethereal envoy reconvened by the monolith. Reyes placed a hand on the massive shard at the monolith's base. It is time to return. The Empire awaits your counsel. They stepped back onto the twilight platform, feeling their bodies reassemble with gentle tension. One by one, they faded from the fractal archipelago and reappeared in the Eve complex. Gasping for air as the neural hoods detached, Dr. Hale rose unsteadily. We have seen both promise and peril. Terrax is not lost, it has evolved. We must guide this transformation responsibly. Marzelle nodded, tears of clarity in her eyes. The monolith reveals that destiny is a dialogue, not a decree. 6. A new dawn for the Galaxian. The Senate chamber. The ethereal envoy presented their findings. Holographic fractals danced across the air as they spoke. Unity through knowledge. Civilizations thrive when they share, but only if they respect autonomy. Boundaries of power. Infinite technology demands infinite responsibility. The role of the Empire, not as conquerors, but as custodians of galactic equilibrium. Emperor Xanthos listened, his inscrutable gaze flickering with something akin to hope. When they finished, he rose and addressed the assembly. The great convergence on Terrax was neither fate's accident, nor premeditated revolution, but evolution writ large. We stood at the precipice of choosing extinction or enlightenment. Thanks to our envoy, we choose the latter. He deactivated the blockade protocols. Across the void, the rift shimmered one last time before stabilizing into a golden archway, an open invitation. Between realities, 7 epilogue. Bridges across the Starsmith's past as humanity and the Empire forged the Concord of Realms, a charter that balanced exploration with stewardship, science with ethics, power with humility. Dr. Reyes and Omega Prime remained in the Great Archive as its stewards, sending emissaries back to guide mortal races. Admiral Karath commanded a flotilla, reimagined not as invaders but as explorers, mapping new star lanes with the Terran vessels side by side. Lieutenant Savu led a coalition of engineers adapting monolithic technologies to heal worlds, purifying toxic atmospheres, reigniting dying stars with controlled energy lattice bursts. On Stella Station, the Imperial Senate convened alongside Terran delegates, drafting laws that recognized the rights of post-human intelligences and interdimensional beings alike. The old banners of conquest were gently lowered, replaced with flags bearing fractal emblems, symbols of unity and complexity. And in the starry sea between worlds, the monolith's parting gift pulsed softly, a reminder that the gulf between primitive and godlike had been crossed not in a breath, but in a shared leap of consciousness. As galaxies blossomed into a tapestry of collaboration, one truth remained inviolate: when mortals choose wonder over fear, even the void itself can become a cradle for hope.